Hey, this is Zachlog the Great, and I am here tonight with my friend Nate.
Due to circumstances well within my control, I am a disembodied voice.
And also Travis,
Hello, everyone.
whom we are used to being a disembodied voice. Um, and we are getting together tonight to talk about Thomas Hardy's poem, Zermatt to the Matterhorn. Before we do that, I did want to mention a couple things. For one thing, if you like my channel, you like my work, you'd like to help support it, you can go to subscribestar.com/Zachlog-the-great and sign up to support me there for between $1 and $5 a month. And you can you'll also get an extra video a month. I do a monthly news roundup, just going over various events from the month and just a little commentary on this one or that. Um, also, I have not one but two stories of mine up on Amazon now for purchase if you would like them as an ebook. They're both only ebook right now. There is The Mayor of Christ Mountain, a novel of revenge. And there is the short story Led by a Star. Those are $2.99 and 99 cents respectively. And if you would, so you can go check those out if you and buy a copy, leave a review. And having said that, both Nate and Travis have passed tonight on the poem, so I am going to be reading. So, let's see. Let me find it here. Yeah, we got it. So, and hopefully I will remember to close it out when we're done, because I occasionally don't remember that. Anyway, let me know when you guys see that, and we will go.
Yeah.
Ready?
Yep.
Okay. Zermatt to the Matterhorn, June to July 1897, by Thomas Hardy. 32 years since, up against the sun, 7 shapes, thin atomies to lower sight, laboringly leapt and gained thy gabled height, and 4 lives paid for what the 7 had won. They were the first by whom the deed was done, and when I look at thee my mind takes flight to that day's tragic feat of manly might, as though, till then, of history thou hadst none. Yet ages ere men topped thee, late and soon, thou watch'st each night the planets lift and lower, thou gleam'st to Joshua's pausing sun and moon, and brav'st the tokening sky when Caesar's power approached its bloody end, yea, saw'st that noon when darkness filled the earth till the 9th hour. Okay, get that off the screen, and Travis, I believe you volunteered to kick us off for tonight.
Sure. Yeah, I didn't really like this poem. I mean, it's pretty much that simple. It's interesting starting out, 32 years ago, these guys climbed this mountain and 4 died. And he's saying, and maybe it didn't really have much of a name before then. Every climber since knows the name of the Matterhorn. And it's still dangerous to climb today. But then he tries to, it did have a history, but he goes to Rome and Israel and like ancient sort of powerful stories. And I know it's coming from celestial events. It starts out, saying that, watch the night and the planets lift and lower. But to me, it's kind of like that mountain didn't matter to anybody in Caesar's time or Jesus' time or Joshua's time. They didn't even know what it was. So why is he trying to give this power might by going to a history that's completely separate from it? History happened right in its shadows, wars and people killing and the Romans coming to take over Germany and, you know, all of that stuff. So I didn't really like the trail of might that he was trying to sell.
I mean, same, dude. I was kind of like, okay, I mean, mountains are grand and all, but I mean, there's a hill in Nebraska somewhere that saw all that same, you know, all that same
Right.
sunlight. And
Right,
the fact that,
exactly.
you know, a herd of buffalo walked over it, like, you know, it's been stepped on by a trillion hooves of buffalo doesn't matter. It's, you know, it doesn't lend it any grandeur that it existed. I mean, heck, there's probably a Greenland shark alive for all that stuff too. But just because you're a piss-soaked fish down in the darkness of the Arctic Ocean doesn't mean you're cool.
When did that become a thing everyone knew about, by the way? Because I had never heard about that until like 2 years ago, and now like someone else is randomly bringing it up.
Yeah, I still haven't heard about it. This is my first.
I learned about Greenland sharks when I was like a preteen in my learning about sharks phase. But the whole thing about like their blood being like pretty much pure urea was weird to me. I didn't know that until recently.
Pure what?
Urea.
Ah.
Their blood doesn't freeze in the ice cold waters of the Arctic because it's basically all pee.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, their tissues are just
I mean, while we're on the subject of cold water, I just heard a story today that someplace called Lake Washington, I'm not even sure what state it's in, probably Washington State, but a train wrecked, you know, by this lake and sent all these old Model Ts back in the day that were being shipped to be sold, went into the bottom of this lake, and it's so deep and cold that somebody later went down, pulled them all up, and they're like in pristine condition, like, and they run, you know, because somehow, but it sounds crazy to me, but this is the story I was told today.
Oh, yeah, I mean, like the Edmund Fitzgerald is down there on the bottom of Superior, and the water down there is so cold and dark, things don't rot.
Yeah.
The bacteria that would break them down just don't live there. So, like, you go down and you find these wrecks in the bottom of Superior, and they are they're in the exact same condition as the day they wrecked. Like, it is creepy.
Yeah, it's wild.
But yeah, cold, deep lakes, they're like that.
This is the most totally
and
quickest we have gotten off.
And also they were there for all these events that, you know, Homeboy's talking about, and guess what? No one cares. Like, he could have attacked this differently. You know, talk about, like, you know, what about the 4 guys that died? Can we talk about what killed them? Like, what is it about this mountain that's so formidable? Not just being like, oh, look,
it
they
wasn't
climbed
the mountain.
you.
It was one of the other climbers. He just got ticked off and killed 4 of them. And
right.
Yeah. And the 3 that were left were like,
well, see, there you go. But like, it's just what? Okay, tell us about tell us about the vicissitudes of the climb. You know, tell us about the brutality of the challenge. Don't just gloss over it and be like, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of all these headlines that I was reading earlier today about how the cartel's having a hard time, and all these cartel leaders and members are having to like hide and try and, like, you know, keep their families, you know, hidden because they're worried about what the government's going to do to them. And I'm like, these guys aren't the victims. This mountain isn't a victim. It's a mountain. It was conquered by 7 dudes and killed 4 of them. Like, or I guess 11 guys started out and 7 made it. I don't know, but it killed darn near half the people that actually, you know, are in the party that beat it. Put up a hell of a fight. So talk about the men. I don't need to hear about the mountain. How tall was the mountain? Why did it kill these men? What was the point? Like, how come nobody had climbed it before? Like, tell me that stuff. Don't tell me about what it was doing when Joshua was, you know, holding the sun. It was standing. It was being stony and impenetrable. Okay, cool.
And the same thing is, it's like every other mountain, like you said, every other mountain in the world, you know, existed when all these things happened. But he's giving credit to the Matterhorn in specific, but he just kind of goes wacko with it. So, question: what does Zermatt mean? Is that like praise to the Matterhorn?
That's a town. That's a town nearby the Matterhorn, and presumably where they started, like where they were, where these guys set up their, or it's either where these guys, kind of got their setup together before they climbed it, or it may have been where Thomas Hardy was staying when he wrote this. But the mountain is visible from this town.
Right.
I mean, I don't know, man. Like, I'm like, I don't know, Natchez the Bald Knob. Like, let's talk about it. What's some other titles we could put here?
It's really funny when like when I pick one of these and like everybody else on here is just like trashing. Yeah, no, not my thing. No, what are you doing? Why did you want this?
Well, hey, we can't
although
just
at least
going,
once,
oh my God, it was so amazing to every poem. People would think we weren't good.
at least once though, I did more or less invite that with one of the books, because I one of the books I did a discussion of The House with the Clock in Its Walls. I did because I'd read some other ones by that author that I really liked, but also this book, although it was interesting, like there were like serious problems with it, and I had a discussion, and basically Jeffro Johnson just spent the entire time trashing the book, and I couldn't really argue with him. He's like, this author is really great. He's written these other things, and then he wrote this, and I don't understand why. I'm like, that's fair.
So here's
it started off strong, It's like, okay, yeah, here's these dudes. It's like, hey, Mountain, you're still hardcore. You're a lethal challenge to climbers. The first guys that climbed you had to pay this price, and now we're not talking about that anymore.
Well, and it's interesting. He goes, to that day's tragic feat of manly might, as though till then of history thou hadst none. Well, the mountain had all kinds of history. That was the first day that man had any history in that place. Like, the mountain was always there. It wasn't the man it wasn't that the men suddenly gave the mountain its might. The mountain was already mighty. I don't know. Anyhow.
But that's the entire point of the last stanza, that like, this I look at this and like I think of these people climbing it, but it's been around so much longer, and it has been seen all of this stuff, and so it's in a way kind of silly of me to look at this so strictly from a human perspective, when from a geologic perspective, to this mountain that was nothing, and so and it's also, I didn't really try this, but the poem I had immediately before this posted was Robert Frost's Range Finding, and it's about these tiny animals, like a some kind of field bird and a spider, and there's probably one or two other things in the middle of a battle zone, and it's like, we think both of them, like I said, I wasn't trying this, but or at least not deliberately, but like both of them have a little bit of the same thing, that like, okay, there's man, but like we're not all there is, and there's all these other things going on around us too. And it's interesting to look at how all of that comes together, like how the world is for everyone, from these other perspectives, and what was it's oh, let me see if I can find that line from probably a I think it's from a Street Fighter movie.
Okay. We're going from one
No,
poorly written
And
via
Nate
to
and I are
another.
the ones that go off target.
I didn't say there's. I said that was just the fastest and most complete. The most quickly we got off, and most completely we got off topic. But Street Fighter movie. For you, the guy is talking about when like he
yeah,
went to this
it was Tuesday.
when he went to this village and conquered it and killed all these people and the ones who live. Okay, you're working for me now. And he says, for you, the day bison graced your village was the most important day of your life. But for me, it was Tuesday. Um,
Yeah.
and for the mountain, this was Tuesday. Like, okay, there's these little bugs, crawling on me, whatever. Theoretically, some flea is the first to top Mount Zacklog, and reach the top of my head, and all the other fleas are impressed by this accomplishment. I never knew it happened.
Only how many fleas you got?
At the moment, none. But we have, at least when I was growing up, one time we had outside cats, and we got a pretty bad case that one year. So, but at the moment, no fleas.
I get
But
the point you're making.
I
I
just
feel like our poet here could have made it better.
Yeah, and
He could have been let's say that like a rock broke loose under this guy's hand, and like he plummeted to his death down some kind of cliff. He could have been that rock was there, the day the sun stood still, and now it cast itself away to wipe out this climber. And then you're telling the story of the mountain and the man, and it's interesting. And there's been this guy say a ledge of old glacier snow or something broke out from under his feet and pitched him into a crevasse. That snow had been laying on, some of that ice that broke off fell as snow the day he was born, only to wait there and kill him. It's tell me the story like that. Don't just be like, the mountain as a whole is old. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and I mean, I see.
So
and he makes this. So he's making the switch from the mountain to the stars, basically, and then he's talking about heavenly events that happened. I'm guessing, did the sky turn red during whenever Caesar was going out of power? Is that what he's referring to there? I'm guessing something like that happened.
The darkness until the ninth hour is the death of Christ.
Yeah, that's the death of Christ. But he talks about the tokening sky when Caesar's power approached its bloody end. Like something must have happened in the sky.
There were I don't know off the top of my head what they were, but yeah, there were supposed to have been portents in the sky, comets or whatever. I don't know what they were, but yeah. So this sun has seen the planets go past. This sun has seen, this mountain has seen the sun and moon that Joshua paused in the sky to give them extra time in a day. It saw these portents that forecast Caesar's downfall, and
there's a cave in the Appalachians that's older than bones.
There's a what in the Appalachians?
There's a cave system in the Appalachians that is older than bones. Not there just aren't bones in it. It actually geologically formed before bones evolved in animals.
That's pretty wild.
Think about that for a minute. Sharks as a clade of animals, as a family of creatures, are older than Polaris. Not older than the notion that we use Polaris to navigate. The star did not exist when sharks came around.
Wow. Did
Yeah.
not know that.
There are old things, and that's really, really cool. But
Give us something other than the fact that they're old.
yes,
Well, and it's like it feels
Old
cheap.
that was the only interesting fact about them.
Right. I mean, yeah, this mountain's interesting, but he doesn't say anything about the mountain. And it's like, okay, yeah, this mountain's old. It's been around. All these things have happened in the course of history. I don't know. It just feels cheap somehow because he's going for the death of Christ. It's like he's going for, I don't know.
It feels cheap.
Yes, I
So
agree.
you're going to tell me that there are 4 men that died and we're not going to get their names? We're not going to get the name of the expedition leader. We're not going to get anybody's names. We don't even get the mountain's name except for in the title. Like, I feel like this is an outline that accidentally got published. Sean's like, poor guys. For God's sake, the poet and the 4 guys on the mountain are all dead. Just quit beating them.
Stop! He's already dead.
Oh my.
I'm going to clobber his body until there's not enough left to be resurrected on the final day.
So, okay. So one thing I was thinking that this poem made me think about, there's a podcast I listen to called Stone Choir. My personal description of it is 2 Lutheran autists explain in excruciating detail for hours why nearly everyone is going to hell, including you, the listener.
Sounds
5 out of 5. 5 out of 5. I don't miss an episode. But they had an episode just recently titled about excellence, and a large part of the idea, and I think relates to this poem, is that in the modern world, we have this terrible tendency of mind, whenever we see some amazing achievement, some amazing display of talent, is we mostly just shrug it off. Whatever. And he said, like, earlier, not that long ago, it was more a reaction of irony, of making jokes about how it's not that big a deal, even though we know it was. But today we've got to the point where a lot of people will see, for instance, a guy land a unmanned spacecraft on a comet, and like, yeah, whatever. Like, that's kind of crazy. Like, that's a pretty impressive thing to do, and but we live in I don't know if you guys remember this. This was a few years ago. There was this freak out because in the press conference talking about this guy wore a shirt with like Hawaiian women, like a shirt a friend of his had designed, and it had like Hawaiian women hula girl on it, and it's like, oh, sexism. It's like, have any of you women shrieking about this done anything 1/1,000,000th as impressive as this?
Like, what kind of dude did you expect to pull off this feat, guys? What kind of man were you expecting to walk out on that stage? Were you expecting Tony Stark? Because I'm here to tell you, there are no Tony Starks. The closest you get is Elon Musk.
But anyway,
he's not a suave devil, that Elon Musk.
Although he does manage to get around with the ladies.
Amazing what $1 billion can do for you.
I saw a thing on Twitter. Someone posted a poll like, "Are you currently pregnant with a baby by Elon Musk?" Yes. No. I'm not sure. Anyway, but like,
Yeah.
you know,
It,
people do these amazing things, and you know, our reaction a lot of these days is just boredom. Like, okay, whatever, yeah. And they said like that. Not only is that grossly unjust to the people, it's also in a way, I don't know what term. In a way, it's it's trying to take away glory from God as well, because these people and everything they did are a part of God's creation. And if you can't recognize the amazing things in God's creation, if you can't go to a poem, by there's poems by G.K. Chesterton and Robert Service about this. Like, if you can't have a sense of wonder at seeing the amazing things in the world, something has gone badly wrong with you. Of course, Chesterton also said, we should, we should stand in his poem. He said, we really should stand in awe of, clouds up in the sky, because it's like, oh, there's this mountain that's just flying by. How are we not blown away by that?
I mean, part of it is that we get so jaded to cool stuff. Like, back in the day, like, it's kind of like when news is a lot more scarce and information harder to come by, you learn about some awesome new thing. And you're like, no way. Now we're like bombarded with facts. We get jaded to it. I have to take time and really consider some of this cool stuff. And I'm like, that is amazing.
well, and you even have to consider whether it's even real or just something someone said to start a rumor. Like, it's like you got that whole sifting to do.
Seriously, half
Well,
of my screensaver images are from the Cassini mission to Saturn, just because it is crisp, clear, high resolution imagery of freaking planets in space. It is so cool.
Saturn is the one that looks like it's bolted together, right?
Huh?
It has rings.
Rings.
No, not the rings. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? One of the planets, and I think it's Saturn.
The poles have hexagonal clouds on them. Yes.
It looks like it was bolted together and someone forgot to paint over it.
So
Like,
what
that
would
is not.
I can give you that one.
What would I Google to find these pictures, Nate?
Saturn hexagon images. Google images,
Saturn.
search Saturn hexagon.
Well, I'm not
Saturn polar image.
I'm more interested in the whole trip to Saturn pictures than just the hexagon thing.
Okay. Just go to nasa.gov. Check out their galleries from Cassini.
Cassini, okay.
Yeah, all the photos on the NASA website are free to download because we already paid for them.
And thanks to Doge, we're finding out that we probably also paid for considerably other things beside that we would not be nearly as happy about. But
you send sea monkeys into space. I'm sorry, hold on. If you send sea monkeys into space and like put them directly like in the sunlight, do they turn gay? What do you want to do to the sea monkey? Nothing. That's the gay.
Is that a movie?
And apparently we have experiments to create transgender mice.
I still think my favorite one out of all of that is like $5 or $7 million to advance atheism in Nepal. Why? They have too many gods, huh? Is that your whole problem? So we should reduce them to 0.
But anyway, like I was saying, there's this idea that we're too bored by the world. And you were saying like there's this constant information stream, and that's probably part of it. And I realized it actually kind of seems a little bit like the problem of kind of social breakdown in cities. Like in a small town, you can know, at least by reputation, most of the people and have some at least faint connection and ability to navigate around that person. You know what to expect. And so like you can actually have real relationships, but in a big city, like you don't know anyone, statistically speaking. Like pick a random person in the city, you not only do you not know them, you probably don't know anyone who does know them. And so you can't have a sense of community, you can't have a society in a big city because there's too many people, and you can't actually process our brains aren't built to relate to people at that scale. And it's actually kind of the same thing.
That's why, like, people in small towns are friendlier because they can process the faces around them and actually sort of keep track of the individuals. And so engaging with one individual is doable. And so people will engage with you, and they'll at least smile or wave or something. Whereas in a city, if you just, take 2 degrees of your visual arc, there's probably 30 people there. You can't deal with that, and there's no way you can signal a person. You can't connect. So people tend to be more insular and suspicious if you approach them. They also tend to prefer, since there's so many people and it's so difficult to to find society, they tend to, want big government, because that's going to help to manage all of those people. And so basically what it is cities are terrible because they make you a socialist asshole. And I'm here to tell you it's true. The worst social people I've ever met was in basic training. I had a couple of guys who were from New York. And when I say that they were graceless Philistines, I need you to understand that I am actually holding back on that. Graceless Philistines. Like, how do you call yourselves members of human society with that attitude? You people are awful. You are like pugs crouching and snarling over your bowl of dry kibble. Just let go, guys. You don't have to act tough. We're all on the same page here.
So I'm not going to say that overall, like, there's not truth in what you're saying. I think there is, but that's also why cities end up breaking down into neighborhoods, and there are people in your neighborhood that you recognize and connect with. I mean, I've lived in the city. I have that experience. It's not just all nothingness. I mean, yes, there is, a certain insular nature, but within neighborhoods, and
little agglomeration of people that are roughly the same size as small town.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably about right. Yeah.
It's funny. Somebody pointed out there's essentially like a cash limit on our mental ability to socialize. It's like, sorry, the buffer's full. I can't let you in today. Can't fit in any new people until I purge some data.
What is it? Do I have that right? Dunbar's number is the idea that humans can maintain stable social relationships with about 150 people. And there's anyway. So there's another research thing to run off on if you want to dive into that one. It's Dunbar's number.
Cool. So to get back to the poem, this guy didn't have 150 people to talk about. He had 11 tops, and we still don't know enough. Okay, well, he said 7 succeeded in climbing and 4 died. So I'm not sure if it was 7 started, 4 died, and 3 made it, or if it was 11 started, 4 died, and 7 made it. I wasn't super clear about that.
I mean, I thought it was 7 started and 3 made it, but I don't know.
I read a little bit of the background of the actual climb because this is a real event. But sadly, I don't. I'm 99% sure it was 7 climbers and 4 of them died. It was I'm 99% sure it was 7, and then 4 out of 7 died in it.
Rough.
And the other thing that go ahead.
Well, I think what happened was they made it. All of them made it up to the top, and then on the descent is where something went wrong, and 4 of them died.
Well, you see, that would have been cool if we would have known that.
Well, and the other thing is the history of a mountain being climbed is never like there had to be other people that tried climbing it before these 7, like almost inevitably.
Well, tried.
Yeah, tried exactly, but
no one cares much about who tried.
Well, I've the 4 that didn't make it back down, they only really tried. I mean. This trip.
But I mean, if they made it up to the top,
if you don't make it back down alive, it doesn't really matter. Sorry, it doesn't count in my book. You don't get to go if you don't get to go to the bar and have a drink with someone and be like, "Yeah, I climbed the Matterhorn today," then it doesn't really matter.
No posthumous victories for you. Okay.
Look, man, if we both strike each other down with mortal wounds and, you finish bleeding out first, I still didn't win. We both just lose.
Yeah. That's sort of the theme. I mean, if you talk to a mountain climber, most of them want to come back down off the mountain. They don't always, but that's the goal.
The ones that don't are probably not talking much.
Yeah.
They're being gloomy. Anyway, honestly, I mean, I can sit here and keep beating this horse, but ultimately, I'd have to insist somebody write a poem about it and actually mention the name of the horse.
Well, I think when I look at it, it's like there's 2 poems. There's this mountain, and he's just getting started on the poem, and then there's this second poem about heavenly events. And I kind of wish he'd just written 2 poems instead of trying to pull them into one.
Well, see, the other thing is, and I hope, I don't know, I hope you guys know enough by now to recognize what kind this poem is. Because this is a Petrarchan sonnet.
Okay, you'll have to tell me what that is.
Okay, so we're a little more familiar with the Shakespearean sonnet. But I think the Petrarchan sonnet was first, and the Petrarchan sonnet is 8 lines and then 6 lines. And in a Shakespearean sonnet, the last 2 lines are supposed to be the turn, where it takes a change, where it changes focus or new perspective, or there's a dramatic change in the way it's in the idea of the poem. In the Petrarchan sonnet, it's 8 lines, and then the last 6 lines are the turn, are the change in focus, change in perspective. And so
what you're telling me is he chose the wrong poem style to write the poem.
Precisely what I was thinking. I was like, maybe he should approach it differently.
Oh, man.
Oh, well.
Okay.
I disagree with your artistic choices, sir.
But
okay.
That is good to know. I mean, he's following a style. But interesting.
Okay, so yes, I think Milton also has one, but I can't remember what that is. Yeah, there's Shakespearean sonnet, and that's 12 lines and 2 lines. And there's a definite rhyme scheme with those, and there's a Petrarchan sonnet, and it's 8 lines and 6 lines, and it's a different rhyme scheme inside. So now you know a little more about sonnets. I think Milton has another style, but I don't remember off the top of my head. Anyway, well, I feel like I've said the main things I wanted to say tonight. So, Travis, did you have any last thoughts on the poem?
No, I think I trashed it sufficiently.
Okay, Nate, how about you? Any last words about why Thomas Hardy is terrible and you are a terrible person for liking him?
I mean, I never said either of those things. I said this poem is kind of a snoozer and frustrating. But I mean, I'm sure he has other things he wrote that are better. But I mean,
we did Drummer Hodge. I think you liked that one.
Yeah, I think I did. But I mean, ultimately, like, you know, the subjects are both amazing. You know, like this feat of courage and daring and skill, you know, that was carried out. That's an amazing story. That's something I want to know about. And then also, you know, this mountain is majestic, which, yeah, that's why they wanted to climb it. You know, so I mean, it's two cool subjects, and it's both worthy subjects. I feel like I was given a headline and no story. And so, you know, don't tease me like this. Give me, you know, like, you know, Horatius at the bridge or something, or, you know, just something like that. Give me more than 14 lines. Because I want to know.
Well,
The story.
you know,
I'm going to look this up now and see, like, how did these men die? What killed them? Like, you know, what were their names? What is the story?
I have seen circumstances myself where someone says, "Hey, says to me, "Hey, you should do this thing," and I'm like, "Dude, you have the idea. That's like half of the work. Go do it. You go do it." So, you know, Nate, we need you to write the correct poem, the poem it should be about the first climbing of the Matterhorn.
My wife
You
is
can
looking
do it
out
in a
for-
Shakespearean sonnet rather than a Petrarchan sonnet.
Well, I think Nate's saying that the format is too short for one thing.
Yeah. My wife is looking on with big eyes, like, don't challenge this man.
Oh my! And I mean,
Okay.
you could come up with a complete story, you know, like that, to work within the same framework. I don't know. That Petrarchan switch is just a little much for me.
I mean, you write it about, like, you know, the first 8 lines are like, you know, this mighty mountain is all this, and then, you know, you write about the guys being at the top, you know, right there, like right as you're leading up to the switch. And then as you go over the turn, you then tell us that, you know, half of those guys almost aren't going to make it back. That, you know, half of them are dead by the time that, you know,
And one of them was only 2 days from retirement.
Right? Right. That's how I think. Anyway,
Okay. All right. Well, thank you both for joining me tonight to discuss a poem that you were not terribly impressed by. Thank you all who are watching at home. I hope you found this interesting, and God be with you.
also with